Radio Times does gaming.
I couldn't find variations on cow. I think once you've perfected a design, you don't need to...
stop there. There's no need to go any further. I'm not a smart man. You give me a mechanic that lets me dig to the edge of the map. That's all I'm doing.
It's like you go up to people and they're like, have you heard about magnets? Here's like 5 blocks.
Tell me more. I mean, Mario Kart 8, I think a lot of people probably say it's the best one. A lot of other people get very angry at you for saying that that's the best one.
Radio Times does gaming.
Yes, Radio Times does gaming. My name is Rob Lean. I'm the gaming editor at Radio Times.
And I'm Alex Rosebeck. I'm the gaming writer at Radio Times.
Amazing. It's amazing that we've just met as well.
I know, crazy. What chemistry we've got.
Fantastic. And in this weekly show, Alex, don't know why I'm telling you this, but we're going to tell the listeners at home which games we've been playing whilst trying to tackle some of the biggest topics in the gaming world. Alex, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have not heard of it. I look forward to learning about it.
It's very, very interesting. I hear it's a new games console by a company called Nintendo. I think they're from Japan. Have you heard of it?
This is all news to me. But no, we've both actually got hands-on with the Nintendo Switch 2 ahead of it coming out. So we're going to try and cover, do we think it's worth it as an investment? Because it's not the cheapest thing in the world, is it, Alex?
It's not. It's, £395? I can't imagine what it's like in America, where everything is ridiculously expensive these days. But yeah, £400-ish. I mean, it's still cheaper than the Xbox, which has been... I don't know what they're doing with the prices. But yeah, I mean, £400 for a new console is not exactly cheap.
Yeah, I think because like in your mind, you can't help comparing it to, wasn't the first Switch like $279?
Something like that, yeah. It was quite cheap. And I mean, all Nintendo consoles kind of have always been cheap, whereas it's quite a big jump for Nintendo. It feels like they're very much going in a different direction that they have been.
And I think part of like the psychological block that some people might be having is that it does look from an untrained eye exactly the same as a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I mean, we have played the Switch 2, and I would say, I mean, from personal experience, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I would call myself the trained eye, and I would say that it is almost exactly the same in terms of looks. Obviously, what it's got going on inside is much better, but yeah. It is just a slightly bigger Switch.
Yeah, because obviously it's kind of, the first one has sold so many, 100 million and more, I think. And obviously it's kind of become like the de facto form factor for like a handheld thing. Like lots of other handheld things kind of have that same, we'll put the controllers on the side and the screen in the middle kind of thing. But there is actually a number of things that are different. What are kind of some of the big ones that jump out to you?
I mean, the one that stood out to me initially was the mouse. I think that's the one that everyone, when it's the weird trailer where it's like snaking around a table for some reason. I think that's probably what caught everyone's attention at first. And I mean, I like the mouse. I think it's interesting, which I think is kind of the MO for most Nintendo things, is something that's a bit weird and gimmicky. It's very uncomfortable to use. But it's fun. I had fun with it. I played a bit of Metroid, a bit of Civ at the event. And yeah, it's uncomfortable kind of, but I think it's quite fun. The haptics are really good. I was really impressed by those.
Nice. It is a bit uncomfortable. And we have the B-roll of me doing this. Because it is still just a normal Joy-Con. It's quite easy to just kind of like knock it over as you're trying to move it around.
Yeah.
Which is why I was glad to hear that apparently, and you wrote the article on this, so you can fact check this for me. Apparently, you can just plug in a USB mouse and use a normal mouse. Yes.
So, what's the game? Nobunaga's something or other. Some kind of game. One of the launch titles, which is not one of the main launch titles, they did a video demonstration of the game recently, and yeah, you can just plug in a normal computer mouse, and apparently that seems to work. Maybe they have a special super ultra dev switch that lets them do whatever, and we mere mortals won't be allowed to use a normal mouse. But I mean, it seems like you can use a normal, comfortable, ergonomic mouse instead of the weird flat claw thing.
And in the video, did they plug it into the dock or into the...
They didn't show it. They just had a mouse on a mouse mat. They went, hey, and off they go. Unfortunately, my Japanese is not up to par to translate what they were saying beyond what other people had already translated for me. Thank you very much to those people. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to be able to play it. We might see Counter-Strike on Switch 2 at some point. I'm sure that'll be a big hit.
That would be sick. I do feel like that's kind of gone. I mean, it's not gone unremarked upon amongst the gaming press, obviously, but I don't know if Joe Bloggs, who's thinking of buying one for his 7-year-old child, is aware that. Because that is quite a big upgrade or point of difference to the original Switch. And I think a lot of developers will have fun with that, especially like, I can imagine like indies and simulation games using that a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I personally, like whenever I play FPSs and stuff like that, I always do them on PC. I can't aim on a controller for the life of me. But like when we went to the preview event, I played a bit of Metroid, and using the mouse for that was night and day to using the controller. Like I was absolutely useless using an analog stick to aim, but changing it to a mouse and being able to like actually aim like a normal person was very nice. So prior to that, I was kind of like, oh, I maybe won't bother with Metroid Prime because I will be terrible at it. And now I maybe will not be terrible at it, which is nice to know, I think.
It was good to know that there might be a chance you won't be terrible.
Yeah.
That's why I was so happy when you joined the company, because I was like, you immediately showed an interest in some games where I was like, I would be terrible at that. Like Doom. I was like, I'm so happy that you're covering Doom. I remember being at a preview event for Doom and just being stuck on like the first bit. Because I was
very happy with it. I think, I mean, Doom as well was one of those games that was rumored to be on the Switch 2 at launch.
Yeah.
It's Doom and Elden Ring and all these games that have apparently not, absolutely no reason that anyone had to say they were coming to Switch, but I don't know, maybe they will at some point. But yeah, now with a mouse, the possibilities are endless.
Definitely. And let's pivot from there into talking about the games. There's a few that we definitely know are coming to Switch 2, and there's kind of one main launch title, right?
There is Dragon Drive. No, I think Mario Kart World, I believe, is I mean, it's just Mario Kart, but really, really big. Which, I mean, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I guess, on the Switch 1 was great. I think a lot of people probably say it's the best one. A lot of other people get very angry at you for saying that that's the best one, and they're entitled to their opinion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I got a decent amount of time with Mario Kart World, and yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think that it really is. It's a new Mario Kart game without just sort of throwing in a bunch of new tracks and calling it like, here you go, pay 70 quid for it. Which, I mean, it's obviously still very controversial that it's £70, but I mean, it's a big game. There's a lot going on, and it's Mario Kart, so you're going to be playing it for the next 10 years anyway.
Definitely, yeah. The event I went to recently was kind of mainly about Mario Kart World, so I got to have quite a long play session with it, and yeah, I think it's really good, man. Like, it's like they showed us the thing, I've started to see this popping up on social, that you kind of go to the start menu and you just kind of see like Mario driving around in like the open world, and you kind of think that's just like a menu animation, but then it's like press whatever to free roam, and you just like go straight into the open world and you can just drive around and do whatever, which was really cool. And they've got big blue kind of semicircular things popping out of the ground in certain places with a big P on it, which I assume is meant to look like a car park kind of thing. But if you drive into one of those, it kind of triggers like a little kind of mini challenge, and it'll be like, I'll get from A to B while dodging all these cows and stuff like that. And I can imagine just kind of like Forza Horizon, just kind of aimlessly driving around, doing a few of these things, especially if like you're waiting for a friend to come online or for someone to finish doing something so they can come and play with you. So that's really good. And we got to see like a fully unlocked character selection screen, and there's blooming loads of them. And like lots of like different variations of all the different characters as well. Well, for some of it, I couldn't find variations on cow. I think once you've perfected the design, you don't need to
stop there. There's no need to go any further.
There's like a mechanic where you can drive around and pick up kind of look like delivery bags, that kind of food delivery bags, and then you can similar to like using a power up. You press the L button to eat the food, and for example, I got one that was a burger, and I was playing as Toad, and then I ate the food, and Toad's head turned into a big burger, and stuff like that.
So is it worth the money then?
It's worth £70. Yeah, it's got Burger Toad. So what?
Yeah, what more could you want?
What do you want?
Yeah, stop complaining.
I think that's probably the best case study we have of like what is Nintendo going to do with the extra power that the Switch 2 has. Obviously, it's not as powerful as a like PS5 Pro or something, or even a PS5. Obviously, it's a bit better than the Switch, so they can do slightly bigger and more imaginative things with the franchises that you love. And so they've got not just a load of Grand Prix and a load of time trials, but they've also got the, I want to say Knockout Tour it's called. Did you get to play that at the event?
Yes, I did. The one where it's 24 people? Yeah. I played a bit of that and was very tragically knocked out. I think I got to the last 8.
Nice.
And I was ready to get to the final bit. I was in second place, ready to go. And then it all just went horribly wrong. And I don't want to talk about it.
You've made it further than me. I think I only made it, I can't remember how many stages there are. Is it 4 different points you can get knocked out? It's something like that. I only made it to like the penultimate one, was like the furthest I got. But I was faintly embarrassed. Because it was like a room of like games journalists from Radio Times and some quite prestigious places. And also
the implication that Radio Times is not a prestigious place.
Not my words. No, it's pretty prestigious, isn't it? But it was like trying to kind of looking around the room, being like, who in this room has got the best Mario Kart skills? Because you kind of just have to. You can sit there and kind of keep driving around the open world once you've got knocked out, but the temptation was to be like just kind of nosying on everyone. But also they put the CPUs on hard, so it's like faintly embarrassing being like seeing all these gaming journalists get knocked out by the hard CPU. But that's quite a fun mode. I can imagine like that being quite. I imagine that's mainly for online because obviously you can't have 24 local people playing it.
I mean, you could try.
We were all in the same room, but like, I guess it was just networked together kind of thing. But I think that's cool. And we also got to see the kind of different battle mode things that they have. You know, remember the one with the balloons where it's like...
yeah.
So they've got that and they've got like a coin collection one. And I feel like there was one more. But essentially, like you can kind of tell they've gone to the effort of being like, what else can we do? You can also do a thing where you can kind of set up a kind of like a Grand Prix where you can set, I want to start on this track and then we're going to race to the next track and do that and kind of make your own little way around the open world. So I think it's like a lot more kind of evolved of a game than Mario Kart 8, which was mainly just like do the Grand Prix, do the time trials or whatever. So I think it's like, it bodes well if that's the kind of level of thought and attention they're putting into it. Is good, but there's not a huge amount else. We were trying to say the other day, like, what do we think other than that will people be playing at launch? Because it's kind of like a weird gap then.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, it is just Mario Kart World, isn't it? And then a few, I mean, it's mainly third-party stuff. And from our preview event, when we went to the one in London, I didn't think the third-party stuff ran that well. And it's quite strange considering how big the Switch One was on... One, obviously the first party titles, but also like indies and stuff like that. And it seems quite strange to me that the Switch 2 has made such a point of, oh, we've got Cyberpunk and we've got Yakuza and all of these newer, more intensive games. And so initially I thought, oh, it's going to be showing off the power of the Switch. And then I played them and like Street Fighter 6 was quite rough and Split Fiction was not great. And I mean, on the one hand, I can see why they want to frame it as like as powerful as the others, but who's buying a Switch to play Street Fighter? No one. No one is sitting there going, I really want to play Split Fiction. Which console should I buy to play it on? Oh, I'll buy a Switch 2. Like, you're buying it for the first party stuff. So, yeah, I don't really know why they've launched it with such a weak, I would say. Might be, I mean, I was going to say it's a bit harsh, but I think it is true. It is quite a weak launch selection when, you know, Drag X Drive and Nintendo Switch 2 information tool or whatever it's called are the two highlights when, you know, 20 years ago when the Wii came out, those would have been, oh, look at this cool tech demo to show you how all this stuff works. And now it's pay us £10 for this kind of okay selection of mini games.
We did get to play Nintendo Switch 2 welcome tour at the event I was at recently. And it is one of the driest, like, welcome tour consoles. Because, like, the most recent one of those I played was Astrobot on PS5. And it's like, wow, it makes it so fun to kind of learn about this console. And this one is literally like you walk around a little museum, or you can basically walk around as a miniature person on top of a Switch. And it's like you go up to people and they're like, have you heard about magnets? Here's like here's like 5 blocks.
Tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more. And then instead of telling you more, they just kind of give you like some text to read, which is like the thing about going to a real museum, is like there's more reading involved than I would like. And there is like mini games in it. There was a cool one where it's trying to explain to you the concept of pixels and how many pixels there are on the screen. So it starts with, it's like a kind of old school Super Mario Brothers level, and it kind of starts in like a tiny little square, and as you go across it adds more and more pixels, and it kind of explains the concept quite well. But I think it would have been a nice touch just to give this to everyone and not make people pay for it.
I think there was one I played that I actually thought was really interesting, where it was like seeing if you could tell different FPSs apart, and it had like a football going across the screen, and it would go across the screen like twice at different FPSs, and you had to like guess which one was which. And I thought that was quite cool. But yeah, my favorite part of the game was where you make your little person run across the screen too fast and they fall over. And I think if that's the highlight of the game, it kind of doesn't bode well for the rest of the game.
That was true. I kept like, because they had, at the event, they kind of unlocked all but 2 of the things on like the top screen bit. And like, you have to go around and find the other 2. So I was just like literally running around, falling over, learning about magnets and then falling over again. So yeah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what gaming is all about.
I guess the other side of the games debate is that when you buy a console, you're not just buying the day one lineup. You're also kind of, it's an investment in I'll get to give them more money to play Donkey Kong in a few months' time, and Metroid, and then there's kind of this weird kind of in-betweeny games like Metroid and Pokemon, which are going to be on both, but you'll get like a slightly better version on Switch 2 and you'll get the mouse and stuff. What from like the upcoming stuff are you looking forward to?
I like Donkey Kong a lot, so that's probably the highlight for me. I think I am interested a lot in the new Pokemon Legends ZA, I guess it would be, but I refuse to say that. I thought Legends Arceus was really interesting. I think that it had a lot of problems. Like, I never actually finished it because once the novelty kind of wore off, it was kind of a boring game. It feels like they've solved a lot of that issues with this. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be on both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, which I think is interesting because I think Pokemon especially has got a lot of flack the last few installments for being not that great looking.
Yeah.
And at a time where like Mario Kart World was supposed to be on the Switch 1 and they've made it Switch 2 exclusive because they couldn't make it what they wanted it to be on the Switch 1. So the fact that it's on the Switch 1 as well kind of suggests to me that it's going to be not that great looking again if they can get away with running it on both consoles. So it's one of those things where, like, no one's really playing Pokemon for the graphics, but at a certain point you have to say, like, look, you've got to make it look at least half decent, even if, like, the mechanics and stuff are interesting. So I'll be interested to see how they actually deal with that, whether it will be an improvement or not.
Yeah, and like at what point, so the kind of overlap period seems to kind of get longer, like, because people are still putting games out on PS4 now, and that came out almost 5 years ago. And like, you see it less with Xbox One because like people have to make Series S versions of things. But like, who knows how long the period will last where almost everything will also come out on Switch 1.
Yeah, it feels like with the Wii and the Wii U, I think, if I might be remembering this wrong, but I feel like they continued to make Wii games for quite a long time. Like, even once the Wii U was out the door, they were still making Wii games. And I suppose the Switch 1 has sold so well that you kind of have to cater to that audience, like, especially considering the price and people aren't going to be upgrading to a slightly better version of the Switch they already have. Then, yeah, it does make sense that you'd have to cater to them. But at some point, I feel like with especially how they're moving to like more digital only games. They're moving more to the first party or to third party games and stuff like that. I feel like they are probably going to move just to Switch 2 exclusives earlier than perhaps many people think.
Yeah, I guess we will see in the full passage of time, because Donkey Kong is a Switch 2 exclusive.
I think it is, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. I enjoyed the demo at the Paris event, which I assume is the same as the London one. I didn't realise it had this, I guess you could call it gimmick or feature, where you can just kind of like pound down into the ground at any point and just kind of start kind of drilling around and finding stuff down there. I just got like hyper fixated on that and was just
same.
Underground the whole time.
Like, I'm not a smart man. You give me a mechanic that lets me dig to the edge of the map. That's all I'm doing. As soon as I get my hands on it, I'm just digging as far as I can go, and who knows what I'll find? Probably nothing, and I'll have wasted my time, but I'll have had a great time doing it.
That kind of seems, instead of a 3D kind of third-person Mario game, that's what we're getting instead, as we're doing a Donkey Kong one for now.
Yeah, the vibe I got of it was that it was quite like Odyssey. It was clear that they went, Odyssey, everyone liked Odyssey. Let's just make a Donkey Kong Odyssey. And there we go. But yeah, I think it is odd that they've not gone for a new Mario game. I think, I mean, I have to just assume that all of these things are in the works. Yeah. A new Mario, a new Pokemon, maybe not a new Zelda yet. But yeah, I guess it's been so long since the Switch one that you have to launch a new console at some point. You can't just wait forever for these new games to happen. So I kind of get why they've launched it now, but they could have delayed it a couple of months and had Donkey Kong and Metroid on the list, I guess.
Yeah, I do feel like there's this kind of summer launch, which kind of seems more geared at, we will get our absolute hardcore fans will pay for it immediately, and we can start
the suckers.
Yeah, the suckers will come in straight away. Thanks, Nintendo. And then I kind of feel like there will be a push closer to Christmas when a few more things have come out. Like Donkey Kong will have come out. A lot of like the Switch 2 upgrades for various things will have come out. Where then they could do a big push for like, now if you're like aimed at families basically and parents who are being like, do I need to buy this thing for my kid? They're like, yes, you do. At this point, you do. But what do you think the big question in the title of the episode is going to be? Is the Switch 2 worth it? Where do you kind of fall on that debate?
I think it depends. In the long run, I think definitely. Like, the Switch 1 lasted, 8 years? And like, there are people who bought their Switch 1s in 2017 that are still using it now. And it's had all, like, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, all of these incredible games come out. Like, you're going to get your money's worth. Even if the Switch 2 doesn't last 8 years, you're going to get your money's worth. Like, Nintendo doesn't put out rubbish games. But whether it's worth buying on launch, I'm not sure. When they announced the release date, I started putting aside money so that I'd have like a pot to buy a Switch 2 on launch. And now it's here. I'm kind of like, well, do I need a Switch 2? You know, I've got like Death Stranding 2 is coming out soon. Pro Skater's coming out. There are all of these games coming out soon that I'm going to be playing anyway. Do I really need a Switch 2 right now? So I think if you're not going to not get your money's worth, but I don't think you desperately need to buy one right now, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, I would agree. I think, like, again, I would like, my first reaction to the question would be, it depends. I think it's like, if you're a mega Nintendo fan, like you say, you've probably already been putting money aside to prepare for this eventuality, and you're going to want to invest in the platform because you want the next Donkey Kong game, you want the next Mario, you want the next Zelda, and you've got to assume like the big first-party stuff will become Switch 2 exclusive. That's what Mario Kart and Donkey Kong seem to be telling us at the moment. And if we don't trust Mario and Donkey Kong, who do we trust? So I think if you're the kind of person that loves Nintendo first-party games, it's a no-brainer. You're going to buy it. It's got some decent upgrades as well. Like, we did a video about how I would be happy with an LCD screen, and I stand by it, even though my logic in the video is not quite sound now, because I thought that would make it cheaper, and it didn't. I think the magnetic Joy-Cons are really nice. And, the mouse. I think the mouse will make, like, playing, especially, I can see, like, mouse and tabletop mode being quite a fun way to play, like, if you're traveling or something.
Yeah.
Whereas I haven't used the tabletop mode on my Switch once. I don't
Yeah,
think
fair.
not since like an initial playing around with it kind of thing. But I think if you're into Nintendo and their first party games, yes, it's a no-brainer. I think if you're just like looking for, I just want a gaming machine so I can play some games. It depends what games you want to play. Because I don't think, I really want to play Cyberpunk, I'll buy a Switch 2. Kind of like you were saying, I don't think that's the best way to play most third-party things.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I love Nintendo and I'll happily play some other stuff at the same time, then yeah, go for it. Worth it. And that brings us to the segment of the show that I've called Insert Outro Copy Here. But no, it's been lovely to chat to you, Alex, about the Switch 2.
It has. It's been very, very, very nice. And especially for the first time we've ever talked.
Yeah, first and only time.
Wow.
But yeah, now get back to work.
No.
Radio Timesters Gaming?
So that's what we think of the Nintendo Switch 2. What do you think? Do you think it's worth it? Are you going to buy it on launch day? Let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Wave, Alex. Got a wave.